Welcome everyone. It's Apples and Snakes at Home. We're back again, baby. And I am super excited for the lineup that we have for you this evening. These are two of my favorite living or dead poets that we have ever had on this good green earth. And it's a real pleasure and privilege to have them, particularly because one of them is international. So someone that we wouldn't normally be able to have in the UK as regularly as we might like, because they literally live on the other side of the planet. So I am super excited to be hosting the incredible Hera Lindsay Bird and the wonderful homegrown Hollie McNish for this edition of Apples and Snakes. It's just such a goal to be having these two people here at the same time, to be reading, and I can't wait to hear from them both. We also have an exclusive commission, as we always do, from an up-and-coming young poet. And this time we will be hearing from the wonderful Nasima Bee. You'll be seeing a video from her in the middle of today's segment, and we're really looking forward to watching that as well. Before we start, I know you hate all the admin-y stuff, but we got to do it, okay? You got to have all the information at hand before you get to enjoy the poems, okay, children? We want you to make sure that you're subscribed to Apples and Snakes on YouTube if you're not already. That way you get your notifications when we drop a new episode, and you don't have to worry about forgetting it, because it'd be terrible if you forgot, right? So make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow Apples and Snakes on Twitter as well, so you can get all of your updates and information on poetry shenanigans. And that's it. You see, that was painless, and now you get to have poems and that. Yeah, great. So as you all know, I like to open this up with something a bit different. Last week we did dad jokes, and that was that was interesting. I mean, Hollie, you laugh, and you know what? It would have gone down great with you guys, I'm sure. But yeah, Joelle and Chedu, they weren't really on board with that. So we're gonna pretend that didn't happen. I tried something, it didn't work. We moved. But this week, I've been inspired by our two highly esteemed guests, and I have created two illegitimate but deeply loved a combination of both of their work. So I have selected lines from Hera Lindsay Bird's incredible book, self-titled book. She's like Beyonce, in it, do you know what I mean? And also Leanne Lahavas just released a self-titled album as well, so you know what I mean, she's moving with the greats. Look at that coat too, boom, canary yellow. The poetry, pew, 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 pew. And I also selected lines from Cherry Pie, which is Hollie's book from Burning Eye, and I created two little mini scrappy love children from these two books. So hopefully you enjoy this. Bit silly, bit of fun. So I called it Two Drunk Poets Walk Into a Bar, okay? And, this is the first one. I want strawberries fed to me 4 days a week. Now I have a master's degree in poetry and no longer wet myself. All those summers written in stale diamonds getting me haunted again. This is dull propaganda, like stock footage of the heart, a black salt lick. All our jokes like a laugh track at a funeral. Sometimes I feel like punching you in the face and saying, just kidding. The world describes itself again. I start shivering, watching your throat. And the second one goes like this. 9 English gentlemen sit in the sun, in the cold light of a new era. A cloud of bats floats slowly up into your brain rafters. A great empire can fall, comes back like a murderer returning to the scene of the crime. Cozy twig nests saying, those humans there are losing their heads. Pain can be a voice of welcome. I lost my voice when I was 6. what's the point in saying new things? None of us are getting out of here alive. That's me. Did you recognize your lines in there, you two? Hera, do you reckon you noticed every single line that was yours?
No. I was trying to figure some of them out. I was like, is that me? Did I say that? Or was that Hollie?
Yeah.
You should write one of our books from now on.
Do you know what I love about that? I guess that's exactly like making a child with someone, right? You're like, oh, is that like my eyes? Are those your earlobes? Is that my bitchy temperament, or is that yours? You know, which bits came from the parents? Hollie, did you recognize all of your lines?
No, but I recognised the ones that weren't mine that I wanted to be mine. So I was like, ooh. That would have been nice.
You open up the first one with the strawberries line. The strawberries line is yours. You open up. That one is yours. And then the one about the master's degree and no longer wetting oneself is definitely a Hera line. Anyone who's familiar with Hera's work knows
that one if you like, Hollie. I don't want it anymore.
I'd love it. I'd love to do this poem live, and then I might, pull you to the UK.
I'll send it to both of you, and you can read it back and see if you can pick it all out. Okay, so that was just a bit of fun to open up today's Apples and Snakes. And now I want to introduce our first poet to you, who will be the incredible Hera Lindsay Bird. I have to admit, I had to really wield my bias here as a co-curator of this event. And Hera Lindsay Bird is a poet I've been obsessed with for so long. But as I said, she is a resident of New Zealand. It's pretty far away. So the few times that she's been in the UK, I've not been able to go and see her read. So one of the first things I thought about when I was asked who I might like to invite was, we can actually have people from all over the world potentially, because we don't have to, put up a flight and a hotel and all sorts of things you have to do when you bring international guests in. So I'm so glad that she agreed to do this. Hera Lindsay Bird is from New Zealand, as mentioned. She is an incredibly accomplished poet. I'm going to reel off some of her accolades now, just so that you know how shiny she is and how lucky we are to have her. So some things about Hera. She has an MA in poetry from the International Institute of Modern Letters. She won the 2011 Adam Prize. She's also won the Jessie McKay Best First Book Award, the Sarah Broom Poetry Prize, and she was also an Arts Foundation New Generation Laureate in 2017. Her self-titled book, Hera Lindsay Bird, is out through Penguin in the UK. I can't recommend it enough. It just fills me with delight and horror and giggles and just carbonated joy, right? I return to it again and again. I absolutely love it. I am so excited to finally be able to see her read in the sort of flesh. So without further ado, please welcome everyone, Hera Lindsay Bird. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel very sort of top half professional, bottom half slippers. But,
we like it. We like multitudes in our human beings, babes.
It's nice to do a poetry reading without leaving the house. It's very cozy. So was this my cue to read?
Oh yes, sorry.
Oh.
Yes, this is your cue to read. I mean, I don't know. I was enjoying the fashion show. I was enjoying the insight into your sartorial choices too. Do whatever you like.
It's your 15 minutes if you like. Cool. I thought the first one I read is one called Jealousy, which is from this little poetry pamphlet called Pamphlet Hallenbeck. Apologies for the strong New Zealand accent. I'm going to try and enunciate as clearly as possible. Jealousy. Anytime someone I'm dating ever mentions someone they used to love in a semi-nostalgic or non-cynical way, I immediately want to drive my car head first into a swamp full of battery acid, ruining Christmas for everyone. It's so unreasonable to be afraid of so many sad and distant women who have escaped into the future, only occasionally looking back through their naturally thick eyelashes. When I think about the possibility that the person I'm currently with has ever been romantically interested in another person ever, I feel a great self-antagonism for being the kind of woman who came afterwards, like a bad sequel with a higher budget. Oh, I feel sorry for the people I love and where it is I'm taking them, because I don't think I'm good enough. I think it's okay to admit that people you love are better than you. I wouldn't date anyone who wasn't. Imagine dating someone worse than yourself on purpose. That's the kind of fucked up thing that only everyone I've ever loved would do. I'm finished.
Thank you. So one thing that I just cannot get over when it comes to your writing is just the ridiculousness. There was a few extra nesses in there that weren't needed, but the ridiculousness of your similes, they're so irreverent and so strange, and they almost seem to mock the format of a simile. You really stretch it to its absolute limits, and then the elastic band seems to snap a lot of the time in the most fantastic way. So have you always been that gutsy in your writing? Have you always been able to just say, fuck it, I'm going to compare this to this? Or is that something that's developed over time? How have you come to have such a way with your writing?
Blatant stealing, just total thievery. No, I did write poetry in high school, and it was kind of a bit more sort of, I don't know, conversational and a little bit drier. And I started reading a couple of poets from the States. There's this one guy called Mark Leitner who wrote this most amazing book called Beauty is the Case They Gave Us. And Chelsea Minnis, who you guys might know. I know she's been over to the UK recently, and they are just, you know, if you think like this is similarly heavy, like this is low fat yoga compared to like their work. But I just, as soon as I read it, I was like, that's it. I'm just putting it in my knapsack and I'm running away.
Right. Yeah. I love someone who owns their plagiarism. I think we're all plagiarists in our own way, whether we're willing to acknowledge it or not, right? So yeah, that's fantastic. I love that you wear your influences so transparently. I've got loads more questions, but you know, I want to hear as much poetry from you as possible. So please do give us another one.
I am so in love with you, I want to lie down in the middle of a major public intersection and cry. It's not how you're supposed to start love poems, but I'm too far gone to work up to it gently. Your naked back in the mirror has cured at least 3 to 4 major diseases. For you, I would set myself on fire in a smoke detector factory. For you, I would ride through the mall on a Segway, knocking juices out of the hands of thirsty real estate agents. Your lungs like Christmas stockings, waiting for Santa to climb down the chimney and put cancer in. Your face like the face of a dead French aristocrat in an out-of-print children's textbook. My stupid heart like a snow globe filled with blood. If you left me, I would be forced to gaze despairingly into the middle distance. If you left me, I would be forced to emotionally distance myself from the situation as a self-preservation technique until eventually I've healed enough to be able to consider romantic relationships with other people, all the time secretly resenting you for failing to sustain your attraction to me, despite the totally involuntary and uncontrollable nature of human desire. Your teeth like a graveyard in springtime. Your tongue like a mattress in a graveyard in springtime. Your tongue on my cunt like a mattress in a graveyard in springtime. My pubic hair like the black carpet of the Titanic. My ass like an ass buffet. You put me in a friendly but uncompromising headlock. You bite me all over my neck and shoulders. I don't know how to write a love poem because love is indescribable. It's this feeling you get where your mind gets hot and everything else gets insignificant with diamonds on it. and you have to laugh and laugh at things in your second-hand dress. The slow rising of your eyelid like a girl's skirt. My eyes like 2 envelopes stuffed with snow and no return address. My eyes like a pair of pale blue cowboy boots walking slowly down a city street towards you. It's like you finally found someone that interests you, and you get more and more interested like a fascinating disease. It's like, for some reason, you have to think of the Wild West all the time, but it doesn't make sense because you don't really care about the Wild West. It's better than TV to look at someone and feel so much happiness. Your smile, a single arrow quivering in a tree trunk. It's like life is not a punishment, and sometimes good things happen for no reason. I stare and stare at you like you were a distant mountain in a homeopathic video game with rare and medicinal flowers on it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, there's so much to say about the way you subvert the common narratives of love that we're used to seeing in poetry, or the romantic tradition generally, and how that made such a worthy topic of love. And I love that you just rip the carpet from that, and there's just bare floorboards and upturned nails and bits of old gum and just all types of madness underneath this carpet. But that's so much more like love as most people experience it, right? So I'm interested in whether you feel poetry, both writing it and reading it, has informed your lived experience of love. Do you feel that you love differently as someone who will then write about it, or someone that has read poems that gave you an idea of what love was going to be like? How does that inform your lived experience?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with, love poetry is sort of my favorite genre of poetry, which is about why every second book in my poetry is like, but I do, and the people I really loved, the first writers that I were really obsessed with were people like Frank O'Hara and people like that, who just kind of writes the most gorgeous, real sort of love poems of all time. And it's always a sort of a fraught thing, writing a love poem, because it's so performative, it's like writing a really dirty thing on the back of a postcard and hoping that the postman reads it, so it's yeah. it's not kind of as, there's a weird relationship between the intimacy of the person you're writing to, and that you want to capture some of the spirit of that feeling in that poem to kind of honor that, but also it's sometimes I am is this, would I like it if someone wrote something like this about me? I don't know.
That is the question. And I don't know how you feel about this, Holly. I often think, because I feel like I have a right to express all these things about my experiences and the people that inevitably are tangled in it. But then I do wonder, if the shoe was on the other foot, whether I'd feel uncomfortable, disconcerted. I mean, Holly, what do you think about this whole thing of using people that are close to you in your poetry and the ethics of that?
I think about it a lot more now, and I often don't share poems that I've written about certain things about people for that reason as well. And I guess I thought about it a lot as my daughters got older, because people are like, are you going to do another book about your daughter, from the age of 3 till it's no, I'm not allowed. I have to just talk about myself now. And so I think about it quite a lot, and some things I think, maybe I shouldn't have put that out there, and try and reel it back in. I don't think I'd mind if somebody wrote stuff about me. I don't know. It's terrible.
Depends what they're saying, doesn't it? And depends how much of a platform they have. I mean, there's so many variations.
That's true.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about it a lot in the context of all these influencers who essentially use their family as part of their brand. These young kids essentially can't give true or sort of any real informed consent to have their lives and their bodies used in that way. inevitable fallout from all of that. You've got these 18-year-old kids that are retroactively suing their parents for using them as collateral for their Instagram brands. I mean, I'm going off topic now, but I just think the parallels are very similar.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating because I always think, oh my God, I've been told loads by people because of writing about being a mum that it would be really good for the brand to have like my daughter there. People have even said if she's mixed race, it's even better because that's even more fashionable at the moment, as if your whole family is like this product that they can sell, and it's really disgusting. And then I feel like, I would never do that, but then I feel guilty because I have written poems, and I don't know how different that is to me putting a picture of a fetus up on the internet. Don't know.
I mean, these are all questions you have to think about in the age of the internet and the self as a brand, and etc. Back to you, Hera. Sorry that we took such a circuitous route back to you and your poetry, but it's, you know,
let's stay on Hollie's daughter.
It's just, I love the conversation. Sorry, go on.
I said maybe she'll rather be selling book of poems one day, and then like
that response, that would be spicy. Oh, I love it. But yeah, sorry, these are the conversations that poetry sparks, you know, and I love the idea of poetry as a very gooey, alive substance. You know, it's not a staged thing that sits on a plinth, you know, it's supposed to be responded to and bounced off. So yeah, this is what we're trying to do at Apples and Snakes at Home. So hopefully you watching are enjoying the conversations. Hera, please do give us another poem, pretty please.
Maybe I'll read Pyramid Scheme, which is I'm reading them all from this other book, but I'm like you were saying before, you get sick of reading your own stuff out loud. I'm like, this is slightly newer, so it's like kind of more novelty. Pyramid Scheme. The other day I was thinking about the term pyramid scheme and why they call it pyramid scheme and not triangle scheme. I asked you what you thought. You thought it added a certain gravitas and linked the idea of economic prosperity with some of history's greatest archaeological achievements, unconsciously suggesting a silent wealth of gold and heat. A triangle is two-dimensional and therefore a less striking image than the idea of a third-dimensional financial fraud, which is how many dimensions of financial fraud the term pyramid scheme suggests. But I had to pause for a second at the financial fraud part, because it occurred to me I didn't know what pyramid schemes really were. I knew they had to do with something. I knew they had something to do with people getting money from nothing. Maybe it's better to keep your money in a pyramid than a bank, and I should shop around and compare the interest rates on different pyramids. Maybe I should open up a savings pyramid with a whole bunch of trapdoors and malarias to keep the financial anthropologists, bankers, out. My emeralds cooling underground like beautiful women's eyes. I think this was supposed to be a metaphor for something, but I can't remember where I was going with it, and now it's been swept away by the winds of whatever. But knowing me, it was probably love, that great dark blue sex hope that keeps coming true, that cartoon black castle with a single bird flying over it. I don't know where this poem ends, how far below the sand, but it's still early evening and you and I are a little drunk. You answer the phone. You pour me a drink. I know you hate the domestic in poetry, but you should have thought of that before you asked me to move in with you. I used to think arguments were the same as honesty. I used to think screaming was the same as passion. I used to think pain was meaningful. I no longer think pain was meaningful. I never learned anything good from being unhappy. I never learned anything good from being happy either. The way I feel about you has nothing to do with learning. Nothing, but I feel it, down in the corners of my sarcophagus. I feel it in my sleep. Even when I'm not thinking about you, you are still pouring through my blood like fire through an abandoned hospital ward. These coins are getting heavy on my eyes. It has been a great honour and privilege to love you. It has been a great honour and privilege to eat cold pizza on your steps at dawn. Love is so stupid. It's like punching the sun and having a million gold coins rain down on you, which you don't even have to pay tax on because sun money is free money. And I'm pretty sure there are no laws about that, but I would pay tax because I believe that hospitals and education and the arts should be publicly funded, even this poem. When I look at you, my eyes are two identical neighborhood houses on fire. When I look at you, my eyes bulge out of my skull like a dog in a cartoon. When I am with you, an enormous silence descends on me, and I feel like I'm sinking into the deepest part of my life. We walk down the street with the grass blowing back and forth. I have never been so happy. God, I feel like my New Zealand accent comes out so strong.
I'm gonna do a clap. I love that one. I love that one.
I think you only feel that because you've got us as direct contrast to you. I can't imagine you feel that way when you're amongst your people where you are. And it's perfectly intelligible to me. It's not, there's certain accents that, and I think this depends entirely on your ear, but there's certain accents that I tend to struggle with, and yours isn't one of them, so I wouldn't worry. Thank you so much for that. And what's the name of that pamphlet that you're reading from?
It's called Pamper Me to Hell and Back.
Excellent. That sounds like a great name for a spa. I would definitely go to a spa called Pamper Me to Hell and Back, you know?
I think we should move into the spa business instead of the poetry business. I think it'd be more luxurious and fun.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to lead us very seamlessly into the quiz portion of this event. Now, I've already forewarned you, ladies, about this. So I hope that your minds are ready. Your loins are girded. Yeah, we're going to go for this. So I'm going to proffer the question, and then I'm going to offer it to one of you to give an answer to first, and then the other, okay? So first question is, would you rather have a Brillo pad in your pants or tinsel under your armpits? And this would be a permanent state of affairs, by the way, right? So you have to choose which you would be more comfortable with as a permanent fact of your existence. I'm going to come to Hera first. Tinsel or Brillo pad?
I think for tinsel, just for the festive spirit. I love, like, I'm all about tinsel, Christmas trees.
Okay.
I feel like I don't wear short sleeves that often, so it probably wouldn't be too much of a spectacle. But when I did this, it would be fantastic. It would be fabulous. I'd be such a hit at pride.
What about the tickly factor? You're not very ticklish?
Well, listen, I mean, I am ticklish, but if the alternative is a Brillo pad down the pants, that's a bit awkward to explain on a date, isn't it? You know, I mean, not that I'm dating, I've got a boyfriend.
You make some very good points. So much less awkward to explain the tinsel under your arms than the Brillo pad in your pants. You're totally right. Holly, which one are you going for?
I think the other one, I'm also like a lover of Christmas, but I feel like you'd have to explain the tinsel to more people, like just randomly walking around all the time, whereas something in your, also Brillo pads, depending on the spike level, might feel all right.
It's true. If you have enough barrier with your pubic hair, it might not actually be that disruptive at all.
Might actually be a bit like those vibrating knickers you can buy. It might be. I'm not sure.
Let's save on sanitary products as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, have you been won over to the other side then, Hera?
I'm going to have to try them both out for an extended period of time and see, and really, I'll come back to you.
That's not how it works. You've got to pick one, okay? That's not how the quiz works. Okay, we've got one for tinsel and one for Brillo pad. Okay, next question. Would you rather have brunch with Big Bird or coffee with Kanye? Holly, coming to you first. Brunch with Big Bird or coffee with Kanye? This one is the really contentious question.
Kanye at the moment, I know he's not running for president anymore, but trying to get people to vote for, I'm not really with it.
Yeah.
And I don't think, you know, I don't know what enough to think that I could sway him to stop trying to get people to vote for Trump.
Right.
I think I'd just go for the relaxing. Big Bird.
Okay.
I don't think I could. You wouldn't talk to Kanye. You wouldn't get a conversation, would you? He'd just be telling you about himself.
A lot of people go for brunch with Big Bird, and I find it very interesting because as artists, don't we love a little bit of danger and a little bit of risk? Don't we like to poke our heads into a mouth just to see what it's like?
You know what? I think I have spent enough time chatting to arrogant men I don't want to talk to, but I've never spoken to a massive bird.
This has been Apples and Snakes at Home, and that's it. That's the end. That was amazing. Hera, what are you saying? What do you think?
Yeah, Hollie's winning either. I'm going with the bird.
Big Bird. I think I'm the only person who would have coffee with Kanye. Like I would be exciting to have that reckoning with him. And I could dip him in PVA glue and then into a vat of yellow feathers if I wanted to. You know?
Good option. Good option.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm breaking the rules like you, Hera. I need to wind my neck in. Okay, very interesting. Last question. Would you rather be a whack poet but like really content with your output, or a sick poet but you constantly feel like you're not good enough? I'm going to go to Hera first.
Can't tell which of those categories I currently fall into, which probably means I'm a whack poet who doesn't know it. And I just rhymed by accident. So
it's not about not knowing it. It's not about not knowing it. It's about genuinely feeling like, oh, like this is really great. What I make is really great. And it's actually, I mean, can something be objectively bad? I don't know. But yeah, you're blissfully unaware. You're very happy with what you produce, or you're critically acclaimed. You know, you're the darling of poetry, but you just constantly feel like your writing is subpar.
Are you getting paid the same for each?
Sorry.
What's that, Hollie?
Are you getting paid the same for each?
Yes, you are. You are. But we're talking about the interior here, people. Like, which okay, Hollie, go on. Which would you go for?
I think maybe being a better poet but constantly questioning it, because really? I feel like I fall into the other one, and I had a nightmare the day after I handed in my last draft of a book that somebody wrote a review telling everyone the book was so bad poetry that they should try to find me and kidnap me.
Oh,
so I woke up and I was like, that is a very self-centered and scared dream. So I'd probably prefer to be the other one, questioning it, but actually be all right.
Okay. Okay. All right. And Hera, what do you think?
Yeah, torture genius. I mean,
you want to be? You see? Nah, that's not me. I would rather be a mediocre poet and be gassed. That's what I want to be happy. I want to enjoy life.
I think that's what I'm already. I think that's what I'm already. So I want to try the other one.
Yeah. I hear you. I mean, you're obviously not. I understand what you're saying.
We bet.
Yeah, I mean, I also suspect that if I fall into either of those categories, I'm probably the mediocre poet who is generally content, and it works very well for me. Whereas I meet a lot of hyper talented people who are miserable, and I'm just like, well, I don't know if the grass is greener on that side of the fence, to be honest. I mean, no, tell a lie. I'm a sick poet and I'm gassed. You can have it all, ladies. You know, let the record state. So that concludes our quiz portion of Apples and Snakes at Home. And thank you for your insightful answers to those questions. I'm now going to introduce our next commission video. It's a piece from Nasima Bee. Let me tell you a little bit about them before you watch. So they're a poet, producer, and creative practitioner, a trustee of Manchester's poetry collective Young Identity. Nasima was one of 5 Greater Manchester artists to receive a Jerwood Creative Fellowship with Manchester International Festival in 2019. and they are currently working on an audio commission with New Creatives North, funded by BBC Arts. So we're really looking forward to watching this one, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Riot, headfirst cataclysmic, button nose lipped thick, face a disorientation from fingernail to kneecap, brain matter to boredom, a prodigy. Seemingly a head tie on hands, holding head disapprovingly. Left eye on small of back, a universe in thigh gap. She knows how to sit still when the world quakes in her palms, and you are stood, silhouette silent. How do you name a woman that you see yourself in? A woman part you, part human. Looks like Earth stopped spinning in mid-week, planned a revolution in her sleep, an abortion for the keep, threw democracy to the wolves and told it to belong. Can you hear the heartbeat of birds? Can you see the tongue leap from words? Is she saying enough? Model citizen coming for her dividends, shoulder overlook. You can't see what is staring at you if you break back. Did you know she dreamed this? Pandering to Penelope makes you feel irrelevant in reverence. Why do you cock your head to the side, and does your nervousness send tremors down your spine? Do you hear in time? Is her wake too religious for you? Holy like harmony and holiday hum, Hello Kitty trigger happy, put your elbow back above forearm. Dislocating your body parts cannot amount the pain of birthing your human right. When mothers spill tea, they are rushing. Taste is perceptive, touch is eclectic. Harbour happens in head and belly, and I'll be there if you let me.
Oh, you know what I really like about all these videos that we've had is that they're really playing with the format of poetry in film in exciting ways. And obviously there's something really lovely and simple about an address to camera, you know, which you see a lot of. But what I'm really loving is, you know, something like this, which is again very simple, but is doing something subtly different in nodding to this trend we have now of, you know, makeup tutorials on YouTube, and how we're so used to that as a means in which we see the woman's face, and that often very private moment of putting on makeup, and that whole ritual that many women have, and that juxtaposed with the words, which were these like really visceral bodily things, you know, the brain matter and like all of these images that she was putting in our heads at the very beginning of the video. I just found it formally very exciting what was being done there, and again all within a very simple video where not a lot happened, but I feel like that was a very interesting contrast that was happening there. Hera, what did you think?
That's beautiful. It's really sort of hypnotic use of language, but also it's so hypnotizing to watch someone do that to their face as well. It's, you know, like when you're a kid and you watch your mum sort of put on her makeup in the mirror. But yeah, I would, it's cool because poetry is such a sort of archaic form sometimes, it feels like, and I don't know, it's exciting when people kind of bring it into like a new medium or kind of use other formats to make it kind of more contemporary. I want to do a whole series now with like a master chef, like cutting carrots and stuff.
Yeah, there's something really nice about watching someone do a task whilst a poem is unfolding. I feel like there's there's some really interesting connections you make in the brain as you're seeing the two things happen alongside each other. Holly, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought similar things. I looked at like universe in thigh gap line. I think that's it. And I just, the way that it talked about kind of space and the cosmos and the universe, and then it was really, really specific. And watching, I think things like the sort of makeup tutorials and the selfie culture and all this is so belittled, just like a lot of things that mainly young women do are often belittled. But I think it's such a personal thing, and it's such a sort of like a meditation sometimes, putting on makeup slowly and getting ready. And it's the same with poetry. I think it's like that video, it's like letting somebody into your thoughts at the same time as this process that you often do on your own, or with like a group of friends if you're getting ready to go out or whatever. But I think they fit really well together, actually, and they're both very calming. It made me concentrate on the words more, I think, than if somebody was just talking to the camera. I think I agree.
I agree. I love what you said about putting on makeup being meditative. I think it's similar to being in the shower. People often talk about their thoughts in the shower being the clearest thoughts they'll have all day. And I think it's similar when you do your makeup. It's a very private moment. You know, you're in front of the mirror. You're having to be very precise with your actions, but they're also methodical because you're so used to doing them. And that's very conducive to clear thinking, isn't it? So there's something really reverent about that, and really lovely to be able to look into that process as someone is entering into it. Yeah, universe in thigh gap is an absolute bar. There were times I loved that I wanted to bring back in the conversation, but you know, they kept coming. So
I know that's what I was thinking.
Would fall out of my head because another one had come. Sorry, go ahead, Holly.
That's what I was thinking. I really miss live gigs, and I just miss people and everything that you used to do when you went out. But it's really nice to know that I can watch that video again and again. That's the only thing sometimes about live gigs. You're like, what did you just say? And then I want to go back at, like with the book, obviously, that you can read a poem again and again.
Yeah, so, for sure. Thank you so much, Nasima Bee. We loved that. And I hope you watching enjoyed that as well. So I want to introduce the final poet of today's event. Let's call a spade a spade. You know, I'm hugely biased again in this regard. I mean, I'd never met Hera before today, but I just was so amazed by the quality of her work when I first saw it that I had to have her on here. Holly is like a very good friend of mine, and I adore her. And you know, we love a bit of nepotism over here. I want to reclaim nepotism, okay? Holly's on here because she's my mate, right? And I'm very lucky to have a mate who's one of the best poets in the country. Yes, two things can exist at the same time. The Venn diagram is a circle, people. All right. So, to be honest with you, the fact that she's my mate should be enough for you lot. But I know that you like accolades. So here's a few. And when I say a few, I do mean that this is a very concise little tour into the achievements of Hollie McNish. She's achieved so much in her career, but you know, just for the uninitiated, who have all 3.5 of you who don't know who she is, just a little taste. So she rose to fame in the early days of YouTube. You know, one of the original viral poets, you might say. Millions and millions of views racked up on her poems. She's toured extensively in the UK and internationally. She is the author of 5 books, one of which, Nobody Told Me, won the 2016 Ted Hughes Award for New Work in Poetry. She also has a stunning collection with Picador called Plum, which I highly recommend, and also a new book coming out in March 2021 called Slug. I think she's like best mates with Pink. And when I say that, I mean that Pink said that one of her poems was cool, which is the same as being best friends with Pink. Do you know what I mean? Like, take 1 and 1 and make 2 minutes. Use your brains, right? Yeah, I mean, she's incredible. She's excellent. She's super famous and important. And I don't quite know how I managed to finesse being her mate, but let me not look a gift horse in the mouth, innit? I love her. You love her. I mean, if you don't already, you're gonna by the end of this. It is the wonderful Hollie McNish, everyone. Yay!
Your introductions always make me feel really sick and nervous.
Sorry, babe.
I thought it would be different that it's not live, but it's not. It's not how.
I just said that you're best mates with Pink. It's fine. It's fine. Do
I know, as if. Yeah, that is true. She retweeted me once. Let me just.
That is friendship. That is friendship. Like when Mallory Blackman retweeted me once, I was like, Mallory Blackman is my best friend. No one is telling me different. All right, do some poems for us, please, babes.
All right, I'm going to read a few poems. Basically, I thought I'd choose some things that I was missing at the moment. So I know it's eased a bit, but I'm still a bit lockdowny. That can be an adjective. So the first one I'm going to read is about missing strangers, basically. When I haven't done any touring, obviously, and when I'm touring, unless Vanessa was touring with me, I get a bit lonely sometimes, and I realise I started doing this thing where I like stalk older women, sort of like around 80 years old, like on trains, and if there's an older woman at the table, I will always sit there because I've worked out from many train journeys that they're the most likely to talk to me. So yeah, this is about that, and it's called "To the 78-year-old woman chatting to me on the train the entire way from London to Liverpool, which is almost a 4-hour journey. There was no need to apologise for taking up my time with talk about your grandsons and how you had to catch the train alone now since your husband died, and how you do not really like it, but how it's nice to get a tea, and when the trolley comes again, perhaps you'll treat me to a biscuit. And how you met him at a dance, how well he did the two-step, and how you still turn your head when something funny comes on telly, as if he's still sat in his chair, though it's been empty near 10 years. How I remind you of your daughter, how nice to still be young, how your children think you're daft, how your hips have given up, how cheap you got your coat in the discount winter sale. Truth is, I spied you first, and desperate for company, touring can get lonely. I took that table seat in the hope you'd be as talkative as me.
So older women feature a lot in your work. You write about your grandmothers as well in your poetry. Do you feel like there's something in that? Why do you feel like that's a preoccupation in your work?
I think because older women know everything. So,
yeah.
No, I don't know. I think just because, like with the train thing, it really is that has been the person that's talked to me the most. And when I say older women, I don't mean our stupid idea of, you know, you're old at 25 sort of thing. I'm talking like 90.
Right.
And my gran sort of always said, now I'm 90, you can call me old, but don't try before that. Just because I spent so much time with my grandparents, I think. So it's older men as well, but I guess I talk to my grandmas more. And I think just the fact that not all older women, obviously some of them are probably quite horrible. Some I wouldn't get on with at all. But yeah, my grandmas, I just think having gone through so much, there's so much to not to learn in a patronising way, but yeah, I guess to learn and to chat about. And my grandma's probably the person who's like changed my ideas about stuff the most, and I think who's like in her 80s and 90s finally stopped like pointing at girls going to Ibiza in short white dresses and saying that is like the devil's work sort of thing. Like us talking has really changed my viewpoint about stuff, and I think changed hers. So yeah, I just think often older people are more interesting than
yeah. And I'm a big believer in collecting those stories, which again sounds opportunistic or a little bit, I don't know, a little, but you know, I'm starting now to ask my mum lots of questions about her growing up, and because my grandma lives in Uganda, I can't ask her, but she's kind of the closest thing I have to that intergenerational conversation. Are you someone who also likes to talk to old women on public transport, Hera?
Oh my God, I talk to so many old women. I work in a children's bookshop, and that's like my specialty subject, and so it's just like constant grandmothers, and it's just absolutely part of my day.
You're like Meg Ryan's character in You've Got Mail. I love it. That's made me so happy. That's like, I mean, I know it's a very problematic film. I rewatched it recently and it's not aged well, like, but I love it and I love Tom Hanks, and I will not be shoveled into some retrospective hatred of that film. I've lost too many rom-coms to have to let go of this one as well. But I love that you're a children's bookshop worker. That's so wonderful. I love that. Hollie, please do share another poem with us, please.
Well, I will do one about my grandma then, and her final words on her deathbed, basically. So I don't know, these are all poems that I'm doing at the moment, so I'm editing them. So, you know, any hints you can both give would be excellent. It's called Final Words. On her deathbed, my granny did not say, "I wish I'd spent more time comparing my face to other people's faces." On her deathbed, my granny did not say, "I wish I'd spent more time listening to people who told me I'd look much prettier with a fringe." On her deathbed, my granny did not say, "I wish I'd spent more time stressing the lopsided lengths of my labia." On her deathbed, my granny did not say, "I wish I'd spent more time comparing my cutlery to the richer neighbour's cutlery." On her deathbed, my granny did not say, "I wish I'd spent more time sucking in my cheekbones to see if I'd be slightly more attractive with slightly higher cheekbones." On her deathbed, my granny did not say, "I wish I'd spent more time staring in the mirror at my stretch marks as my children tucked in blankets slept, dreaming they could fly." On her deathbed, my granny did not say, "I wish I'd owned that kitchen island. I wish I'd seen fewer shooting stars. I wish I'd had a neater lawn. I wish I'd tried quinoa."
I recognise maybe not specific lines, but the format of, you know, on my deathbed, my grandma did not say, from some of your tweets. So what's that relationship with social media like for you, as far as using it to try new work and to get that immediate response from your followers? Do you find that to be quite an integral part of your practice?
Yeah, I think so. I spent years and years writing poems and being too sort of scared to share them with anyone, and putting them into shoe boxes under the bed and all that sort of normal stuff. And there's loads of things that I still write and wouldn't ever share for various different reasons. But since I started sharing them and seeing, I don't know, just people commenting on them, or one person saying it like cheered them up, or not, I don't mean made them think or made them feel less abnormal for some reason, or whatever, like anything like that. I think I'm not a very shy person. I'm not really bothered that you're gonna get like YouTube hateful comments, or somebody might call you a slag or whatever. It doesn't, like, I'm not that shy a person. So I sort of figure there's not much point in just keeping them to myself sometimes. If no one reads them, fine. And if one person like giggles when they're having a shit day, then that's a nice thing, really. And social media, I know there's a lot of like negative sides of it, but I guess if you're growing up not in the arts world, or not in a city where you could go and see things, or not with the confidence or the money or whatever to go to a poetry reading or walk into a theatre, even, I found quite intimidating when I started doing poetry gigs, even if it was my own gig, like going into a theatre and knowing if I was allowed to sit in an area or whatever. And social media sort of crashes through all those hierarchies, I guess, of like class or money or whatever it is. So yeah, I think it's quite nice. I think all the poets from history would have used social media. I don't think there'd be many that would have been against it. I think Byron would have been on it the most, maybe.
I was just going to say, like, who would be on it 24/7?
Hera, what's your relationship like with social media? I don't think you have a Twitter, do you? Do you have anything else? And if not, why not?
No, I used to, and then it sort of just became kind of counterproductive. Like, I'd do a tweet and then I'd spend all day being like, was that bad? Should I delete that? And it just like, in the end, I couldn't kind of focus on work. So I don't tweet or do anything like that anymore, but I love reading Twitter. Like, it's the best kind of place to get news, and it's just you know, how amazing a medium where you could just type something to Jeff Probst and he'll just send you a tweet back.
Interesting.
I've got to say, I'm a bit like that. Like, I don't think, oh, I've got to do something all the time. So if it goes through spats, and I try not to do anything at the weekend. So sort of half treat it like a hobby, half treat it like a job, I guess.
Yeah. I think everyone's got to find their way and know themselves and know when it's become a hindrance or a source of anxiety. And if you're able to use it, use it in ways that are useful and nourishing for you as much as possible, and you got to take the negatives with positives, weigh it up and see whether it's an overarching good or bad for you personally. I don't think there's a one size fits all approach. We are nearly done for today, but I would love to squeeze in one more poem from you, Hollie, if you'd oblige us before.
Should I do a very short one in that case, because this is a bit longer?
No, do it. I mean, how long is long?
Like 2 minutes.
Oh, that's great. Let's hear that, please.
Okay, so this is another thing I've been missing during lockdown, and it's about fingering. So it's a bit less.
Yes, end with fingering. Let's go.
So yeah, this is called "Fingering" to Ed Sheeran's "Shape of You," which is a song I like. So if you don't like that song, then just replace it with one that you like. And it's that idea, I guess, in heterosexual relationships, much more, that fingering is like foreplay rather than like the main meal. And I think heterosexual couples need to learn that that's maybe not always the case. So yeah, "Fingering" to Ed Sheeran's "Shape of You." I'm talking fingering like this, not like teenage boy. I do not want fingered first today. I do not want this fingering to be the warm-up band you arrive late for but have to watch a little of in order to get in a better position for the person you actually bought the tickets for. No. I do not want fingered like James Bay to the Ed Sheeran tour, or Zara Larsson to the Ed Sheeran tour, or The Darkness to the Ed Sheeran tour. No. I want this fingering to be Ed Sheeran. To be Ed Sheeran strumming his guitar with hard-working redhead hands, holding the microphone to the crowd, singing the final line of "Shape of You" over and over again at a continuous, slow and steady pace. I want fingered like you have just pulled out onto a roundabout on the way to the concert and your sat-nav has just stopped. So you keep driving round the roundabout, dizzied as to which is the correct exit now. And if you take the wrong exit, you will be going the wrong way down a motorway for miles and miles. You cannot risk it. So you fiddle with your phone. You fiddle and you fiddle at a continuous, slow and steady pace as you drive around and around the roundabout again and again. I want fingered like it's illegal to finger me. I want fingered like you're driving round a roundabout, fiddling with your phone until you realise there is no exit anymore. And until you realise that driving round the roundabout itself is the reason for the trip, and there is no Ed Sheeran concert because Ed Sheeran is already sitting in the roundabout eating sushi from a conveyor belt where different coloured plates of sushi just keep going round and round at a continuous, slow and steady pace, around and around at a continuous, slow and steady pace, which does not speed up ever. Because if it sped up, the customers would never get the sushi they need, and Ed Sheeran would be offbeat, and we would all have to start again from the very beginning of the song, or the chorus line would never come, and eventually the phone battery would die. No, I do not want this fingering to be spring rolls before the pad thai, not wings before the burger, not like the recap before the first episode, the meet and greet before dinner, the introductory lecture. The tapas is the meal today. The fingering is the tapas. I want my pussy to be that happy hamster running round and round his little wheel at a continuous, slow and steady pace, stuffing sushi in my mouth until the hamster is exhausted and till the car engine explodes. I want to keep on passing go. I want £200 each time. I want Ed Sheeran singing "Shape of You" in the middle of my roundabout at a continuous, slow and steady space until the hamster breaks free and I am covered in wasabi, until I'm in love with the shape of my gorgeous king body as much as Ed Sheeran claims to be.
Oh my God. I love that. And it's got like a Caroline Bird-esque absurdism and like that brilliant, wonderful, sexy punk vibe you always bring to all your poems about sex. I just love it. That was such a great note to end on. I could just chat breeze with you guys for hours, but you both have lives. That's probably the most pertinent thing. And also, we have to wrap it up here, and it's always good to leave the people wanting more. Thank you so much for joining us today. we have been Apples and Snakes at Home. You have just watched the wonderful Hera Lindsay Bird, Hollie McNish, and you've also seen a special exclusive commission from Nasima Bee. I've been your host, Vanessa Kisuule. Please join us next week where we will have the brilliant Kanye Chingonyi and Rachel Long, who has just been nominated for a Forward Prize. Okay, so big deal poets doing big things, and we're really excited to have them read for us for our final Apples and Snakes. I will see you guys there. Have a good rest of your evening. Bye.